Check, check. What do you know about cultural neglect?
Cultural neglect is when a leader has failed to address the cultural and moral problems of a community or organization, right?
That's correct. And we also know that Hispanic cultural neglect is a problem in our community, even though they are a huge part of it.
Hispanic culture is a big part of our community, as it constantly improves our society with its styles and contributions, spanning from diverse celebrations to leadership roles in sports, showcasing its cultural influence and strength.
Even with everything the culture does for us, they are still misrepresented in our community, whether that be lack of resources for them in schools, workplaces, and public settings, or a lack of credit for their culture in the community.
How so?
I actually saw this firsthand. In my freshman year, I took a guitar class and there was a student who didn't speak any English and only spoke Spanish. The lack of support he had for his language barrier caused him to have trouble learning the curriculum in that class, which affected his grade and understanding significantly.
Oh, so that goes along with their lack of resources in schools.
Exactly.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and going further into the language barrier and lack of resources, Mexican immigrants also struggle when entering the United States because there's a shortage of available jobs due to them not being able to speak English.
Well, if we were to have more methods for learning the English language, it could be easier for them to immigrate into America, right?
That is true. And that ties together the whole point of me saying that our society does not have sufficient resources for the Hispanic community.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yep. Moving along, the lack of credit for Hispanic culture is honestly very extensive. For example, how many times do you think you've seen a piñata at a birthday party or celebration?
Oh yeah, that's way too many to count.
Well, piñatas are originally a Hispanic tradition, and they are a huge part of our society in the celebration aspect. There are plenty more examples of this, and it just goes to show how Hispanic culture is misrepresented and not credited enough.
Well, how can we get more of the community to understand these aspects and promote change in our society?
Well, that's exactly where our project comes in. We as a group are making a PSA, which is a public service announcement, to inform people about Hispanic cultural neglect. In this public service announcement, we are showing interviews with Hispanic teachers and staff in our school about their knowledge and experiences with cultural neglect. In these interviews, we ask them questions such as, what role can you play in making it aware that cultural neglect is present in your community or workplace? These type of questions will provoke teachers to have deep and meaningful answers that shed light on the issue and inspire action. What we gain from these interviews is knowledge about the subject, and we can then figure out the best ways to battle cultural neglect. In all, we're trying to raise awareness about Hispanic cultural neglect and highlight the voices and experiences of those who are directly affected by it.
In one of our interviews, we asked Ms. Garcia, who is a Hispanic teacher on our campus, a couple of thought-provoking questions, and she gave us some interesting answers. Ms. Garcia's first language was Spanish, and she told us about her experiences as a kid in the classroom. She explained how she felt left out, being the only kid that didn't speak English, and how this affected how she viewed and helps Spanish-speaking kids today.
Yeah, and this interview helped us understand the different point of views of cultural neglect, whether it be a teacher's perspective or a student's perspective.
This is Nathan and Nick, and thank you for listening to our podcast.